Hi, I'm Marissa Sacco with Threes Physiyoga method. This is airplane mode, our snack of some quick movement and stretches that you can do in flight. Now, I just want to acknowledge airplanes are the only place where I'm really thankful to have short legs. So bearing in mind that most of you are going to have longer legs than me, I'm going to try to give you some instructions of how to work with this limited space. So chances are there's a bag under the seat in front of you, unless you are lucky enough to get a bulkhead seat or be in business class. Now, what I'm going to have you do is just try to shove that bag to the side a little bit, just so you have enough space to sneak your foot around it. And then shift yourself forward on your seat enough that you can straighten your knee all the way. And that might mean your foot is like almost peeking out beyond the next person, like the edge of their seat, but use your judgment. And you're going to dorsiflex the foot like you're pulling your toenails toward your kneecap, and then plantar flex your foot like you're trying to like curl your toes, or not curl your toes, but kind of engage the arch of the foot, and then move in and out of that. So you're going to just move back and forth between flexing and pointing your foot. And you'll notice your calf muscle is working quite hard, going between these two positions. We're just getting that like pumping action to move some blood in the lower leg. After you've done that, I don't know, 10 or 12 times, then you can hug your knee up into your chest and then re-lengthen your leg, and hug your knee into your chest and re-lengthen your leg. And it's just helping with this circulatory blood flow situation. Okay, and then you would do the same on the other side. You shift the bag over, extend your knee so it's straight. I realize it's probably harder to see, but at least you saw the first side. You'll dorsiflex the foot as if you're pulling the toenails toward the kneecap, and then point the foot, plantar flex, like you're pointing your toes, and then go back and forth, pointing and flexing. Your calf might start to either get a little tired or maybe just feel a little more awake, less stiff, depends. And then after you've done that a dozen or so times, you can hug your knee into your chest and then re-extend the leg, hug in, re-extend your leg, hug in, re-extend, hug in, re-extend. Okay. And then you can scoot yourself further back on the chair seat now and cross one ankle over the thigh. And here's where you're not going to be able to go very far, and that's why it's good to try to walk your sit bones back as far as possible. I don't recommend leaning on the person's chair seat. That's a pet peeve of mine, when people just kind of push around on the chair seat. But you could always bring your forearms onto your shin and just get a stretch through the hip. And take a few deep breaths there. And then you'd come out of that and replace that foot down, and then go ahead and switch. You'll just cross the opposite ankle on top of the thigh and hinge forward to the degree you can. And just take a few deep breaths into that left hip. And then go ahead and come on back up. Make like little fists and just press them into the seat behind you. I don't want to create any armrest wars here, so it's easiest to do this. And it also helps to open the chest a little bit more. So as you press your fists down into the chair seat, or interlaced fist into the chair seat, lift up your chest, look up, and then go ahead and come forward into more of a cat spine. You can just kind of cup your hands over your kneecaps and think of hollowing the front body like you're tucking your tailbone, drop your chin towards your chest. Slide your hands back. Go ahead and press those fists in the chair seat. Lift your sternum up. And then go ahead and slide your hands forward toward your knees. Curl into yourself. And then one more time, fists into the back of the chair seat. Sternum lifts, gaze upward, and then go ahead and slide your hands forward on your knees and round into cat. So now, another thing that could feel good is to, again, walk your sit bones back on your chair seat. And you can hold on to the edges or like the front edge of your chair seat if you have space. And I like to think of it as right knee and right shoulder coming forward. So there's some rotation and the pelvis is rotating along with the rib cage. And I let this shoulder even like shrug a little bit. So this elbow is straight and that shoulder blade is coming off the back a little bit and looking over the other shoulder. And then left knee comes forward, left shoulder comes forward. The left elbow is straight, so that left shoulder will shrug a little bit as you look over the right shoulder. And you can just rotate between the two here. I feel like it unsticks the shoulder blades. It can be a little counterintuitive to let your shoulder blades come up to the ears, but that movement is going to feel good. We don't want to live with our shoulders up around our ears, but it's nice for getting things a little bit unstuck. Okay. And then if you wanted to focus just on twisting more in the thoracic spine, you could come forward a bit on your chair seat. You'd again make a fist and then bring your right hand to the left knee. And as your sit bones stay anchored, you would turn the rib cage and then come back to center. You'd bring the right fist to the chair seat behind you, left hand to right knee, and then take a twist the other way. Great. And then you also could work with a little bit of a neck stretch. So I think we spend so much time when we're traveling either looking down at a book or kind of sitting looking at the screen in front of us or looking at our phones. So it might feel nice to interlace the hands behind the base of the skull. I like to hook my thumbs like right below that little occipital ridge. You could think of it as where the skull meets the neck. And then point your elbows forward and then think of pressing the center point of the back of your head into your interlaced hands. There's a little bit of a feeling like you're trying to not really give yourself a double chin by dropping the chin, but give yourself a double chin by sucking the head back in space, straight back. And then once you get that feeling of straight back, then go ahead and tip the sternum up a little bit. And then go ahead and come back to center. And you can do that a couple more times. Tip the sternum up and then come back to neutral. Tip the sternum up one last time and then come back to neutral. And last but not least, while you're seated, you can also do some shoulder rolls. Roll them back. You can switch directions, roll them forward. If you want to get really funky, you do them in opposite of each other, almost like swimming. And then go the other way. So those are some good things to do while seated and show you a few things to do while standing. So you also want to make sure that you're hydrating enough. And I know this isn't everybody, but some people restrict their fluid intake on flights because they don't want to have to get up and go to the washroom a whole bunch. And I get it. However, you do want to hydrate. It's good for keeping everything feeling good. So when you land, you don't feel as yucky. And also, it's going to force you to get up out of your seat, which is a good thing. So now that you've hydrated, it's time to go use the washroom. And again, great opportunity to move. Notice that a lot of the senior travelers that you see will go walk up and down the aisle when there isn't drink or food service happening. And that's because they're just trying to keep their circulation going. So go for a walk. When you're standing in line for the washroom, you can do some more stretching. So with a light touch on somebody's seat, so you don't yank them around, focus your eyes on one point, your drishti, your gazing point, put a hand on the hip, and then you can rise onto the balls of your feet, rock back onto your heels. And the reason why you're focusing on your drishti, your gazing point, is to help you keep your balance So that way you don't yank the person's seat around. If you are sensitive about, if you're just wanting to not invade somebody's space, you could put one hand on the overhead bin and anchor it there as you rise to the balls of the feet and rock back onto the heels. The other reason why that drishti at something maybe further away could be nice is most of the flight, you're probably looking at a book, your phone, your computer, the tiny little screen on the seat, on the back of the seat in front of you. So it's good to be able to look at something far off on the distance. It's going to feel better for your eyes and your head. All right. And then you bend your knees quite a bit, really generous bend in the knees, crease at the hips, and let your torso just fold over your legs. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. Bend your knees enough that you can lay your torso on your thighs. So it's more of a hanging child's pose than it is a big hamstring stretch. If I probably wouldn't be touching the floor of a plane. You could always bring your hands onto the tops of your feet instead. Another thing you can do while you're here is, if you did want to go into more of a hamstring stretch, although not as crucial as releasing the back on the plane, you could bend and straighten the knees. They don't have to straighten all the way, but you might just work them in that direction. And then end on bent knees. Let your head and your arms dangle. Slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. And then lastly, a little bit of a side stretch. And you could either do it facing the lengthwise direction of the aisle or turn this way. I think turning this way is nice so you don't feel like you're leaning over someone in your side stretch. So you could put one hand on your hip, other arm up alongside your ears, and just think of lengthening your armpit away from the side of your hip, and then hand on hip, right arm alongside your ear, come up and over to the left. You might do that a few times. And then actually, if you were to do it this way, and if it feels like you have enough space, you could again put your hand on that overhead bin on either side as you stretch. Great. So I hope that this has been useful. Please remember to hydrate. Please remember to go to the washroom when you can so you get up and get moving. Try the little seated stretches and enjoy your travels. Have a great trip and be well.